Friends is this concept that I came up with laying in bed one night. I have all these close friends who have these wonderful stories that can help change the world, life experiences that can help other people believe in themselves, hold tight to their dreams and make their dreams reality. On Feeling Friends, we talk about God, we talk about love, relationships. I have celebrity friends, I have non-celebrity friends. I have church members, family members. But when you watch and listen to Feeling Friends, you will learn and you will laugh. It's a community of friends helping to build each other up. So tune in to Feeling Friends every Sunday on WHCR 90.3 FM, or you can catch me on YouTube at Feeling Friends Radio. All right, I'll see you there. WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. What's up, everybody? It's me, Phil, and I'm back here live in the studio with you, my friends. Listen, I'm so happy to be back in the studio. It's nighttime in Harlem, so if you hear all the music outside, don't worry about that. Just focus on the interview. I've got Rahmeel Peebles live in the studio today. He's an actor. He's an activist. He is a community leader, and I'm so happy that he's finally here on my show. So without further ado, let's bring in my boy, Rahmeel Peebles. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me, man. This is a blessing.
It is a blessing. And it's a blessing to see your career just blossom, man.
Oh, man, I appreciate that, man. Step by step, laying it
step by step. We got to start, we got to start off saying, you are AUC brother. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong school. And but he's he's a Morehouse graduate, and y'all know I'm a Clark Atlanta graduate. So there's AUC love in here, man.
AUC love all day.
So go ahead and tell the people who you are, brother.
Yeah. Well, my name is Rahmeel Peebles. I'm an actor. I've been acting for a little over 10 years now. And just an all-around artist. I made my first feature film, which we'll talk about, with a group of kids that I used to work out, which we just completed this year. So now we submitting in the film festivals. We exploring some avenues with NFTs, trying to finagle how we can kind of, I guess, capitalize off of that new emerging market of NFTs. But yeah, I do a little spoken word also. I've been, there was an article read up. I did like an article with the quintessential gentleman, and in the headline they said rapper Rahmeel Peebles is changing something with his film or something like that. I'm like, that's interesting. They called me a rapper. I don't even know where they got that from, but I'm assuming they probably saw some like freestyles or something like that from my page and just assumed I was a rapper. But I'm like, I'll take it. So I'll take that title. But yeah, that's who I am. Definitely a Morehouse man, a brother, a son, a boyfriend, an uncle. Just a happy place.
Well, that's good. That's good. Rahmeel. We're gonna make sure we call you your right name.
Rahmeel.
Let's talk about your life. Now, you grew up in Connecticut, right?
No. I grew up in a small town. I was actually born in Sleepy Hollow, the home of the Headless Horseman, and I was raised.
Sleepy Hollow. What state is that?
That's New York State.
New York, Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Like Northwestchester. So Southwestchester, you got like Yonkers and White Plains, Vernon, New Rochelle. Northwest, you get a lot of little small towns. So Ossining is it's the home of Sing Sing Prison. That's like
Sing Sing, yes.
Yeah. So I grew up, a few blocks away from Sing Sing Prison, and high school I lived up in New York. So when I'm out of town, I tell people I'm from Westchester because I kind of grew up all over North Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom at one point was living in Connecticut, so I got my license and everything out there, and registered cycle and everything out there because it's cheaper. I should have said that on the radio, but
I know, right? Yes, I'm about to say you put yourself out there.
But yeah, that's my only affiliation in Connecticut. I never really. I definitely can't say I grew up in Connecticut. Yeah. But yeah, Westchester, New York. That's where I'm from.
Okay, well, so you started off, and what started you with this passion for acting? I'm an actor as well. People know that. What got you that acting bug?
Man, yeah, it's it's so crazy the way it kind of panned out. I think the first thing to spark my interest in acting was Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker in The Dark Knight. At the time, I think I was maybe a freshman at Morehouse, or I might have.
That was back in like 2004 or 5, maybe around that time. I think
a little late.
A little later. Okay.
We're between 6, 7, and 8. It was around.
Okay, yeah, that may have been. Yeah.
I know I was either a senior in high school or a freshman in college.
Okay.
maybe even a sophomore in college, but I know it was like either early
Mm-hmm.
college or late high school. But I saw that film, and I was just so drawn to his performance. I went and saw the movie like 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out what it was about his performance that I was so drawn to. I was
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by it, and I had never thought about acting. Prior to, I wanted to be a boxer. Um, then I ended up going to Morehouse, and I wanted to get into real estate. I was a business there first, then I ended up switching over to philosophy because I fell in love with that. So I saw myself going to law school and being some type of litigator. You know what I mean? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
figure it out, but a lot of philosophy majors, they either continue with philosophy and get their PhD in philosophy and become a professor, or they go to law
Mm-hmm.
school. I said, okay,
Right.
law school seemed like, you know, that route seems like it's more money. So and I could potentially do things for my community.
Right.
Um, uh, so that was the track that I was at that time, and then I saw this movie, and I was so fascinated, and it brought me back to I'm not a Christian, but I grew up like in and out of the church, and it brought me back to high school when I was kicked out of high school at the time. I was going through a lot with my high school. Was on probation. I was a real at risk kid, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom taking us to this church, and the pastor's wife, who was also like a preacher, like a co-pastor, she would give like prophecies at the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the way she would do it is she would kind of like say something random, like somebody in here is dealing with something with their knee, and then somebody will raise their hand and she would speak to them. But on this particular day, she just called me out. She didn't. She said, "You, Rahmeel, come to the front of the church." And my grandmother had passed away around that time, and she said, "Your grandmother's your angel, your guardian angel." And I just started to catch the chills, and she was just like, "I see lights, camera, action in your future." You know, Mind you, at the time, I wanted to be a professional boxer. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm gonna be on TV boxing. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Mm-hmm.
saw it. But it in the back of my mind, I'm like, lights, camera, action. I can't get away from the fact that sounds like film. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like directing. It sounds like acting. It sounds like something. I just didn't see myself doing that at the time. But after I saw that Heath Ledger performance, I'm like, that seems like something I don't know if I could do, but I'm definitely fascinated in learning on how to do that. You know what I mean? Fast forward, senior year comes. I'm about to graduate. I graduate from Morehouse with honors. I was preparing to do the Peace Corps. I was gonna go and do the Peace Corps for a few
Okay.
years, and then come and then take the LSAT, and then come back, go to law school. And I just kind of saw
Mm-hmm.
the trajectory of my life, and I
Right.
just was really pleased. I'm like, I don't really think I really want that. I kind of want to have
Mm-hmm.
something that's a bit more sporadic, a bit more. um, you know, um, predictable, a bit more fun.
Right.
And at the time, I was doing like little student films at Morehouse.
Mm-hmm.
They were winning like campus awards, and I was getting like
Okay.
notoriety from them.
You know what's so funny is I think that was a time when the Apple people were there, when Apple Fest and all those times. I think that might have been, and they
That's
were doing
all
student
right.
films there. I
Yeah,
had graduated around that time. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that sounds
Okay.
about
Good. Good.
yeah, yeah. So I was having fun with that, and that was speaking. I
Mm-hmm.
was going over to Clark and going over to like what's the library, Woodruff?
Woodruff. Yeah.
Yeah, like and
You didn't spend a lot of time there. You don't know the name. Wood
I
collection.
know, and it's been so long.
No, no.
Like,
You guys had your own. You guys had your own library on campus. So
yeah, I mean, but Woodruff was the library. Like,
it was a club. It
yeah,
was a
that
club.
was like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Over there and seeing having girls like, oh, aren't you the one that was in that movie? Girls.
uh,
So it kind of, I'm like, there might be something to this acting thing.
right.
I had my mentors who did go to law school, and they were just like,
Mm-hmm.
law school and all of that's no joke. If you think about acting, go for it. Like
Go for it. Go after your dreams.
yeah, like you can go to law school anytime. So
You know what? I want to talk about the prophecy, the church lady,
yeah,
about how she really kind of like spoke life into you,
yeah,
and she spoke something over your life. You said, well, maybe that's something that I could do, and I
hmm
want to translate that to your work in the community because you do a lot of stuff in the community. How
hmm
does that relate to you speaking into children's lives in the inner community, the inner city? And
hmm
let's talk about what you've been doing for the past, what I don't know, 10 years or for a long time.
yeah, yeah,
About
yeah.
you speak. What is that? The power of speaking life into people. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's powerful because I don't even think I framed it in that way in my mind yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, like what she did for me, is definitely what I guess I subconsciously have been at least trying to do over the past 10 years. So I mean, yeah, like I said, at that time I was in a very unstable place. Like I was kicked out, I was on probation. I, wasn't really sure what my future was going to be. And there were two things, well, it was a few things. My mother was a huge force, that really.
Romeo, when you say probation, what do you mean probation? You had some issues in
Yeah,
life. You don't mind me asking? I know you mentioned it.
No, no, I had I brought I was getting into a lot of trouble at school. I was constantly suspended for like fighting and this that, and the third.
Okay.
And the school that I went to, I lived in Peekskill, New York, but I went to school in the town next door, which is Cortland Manor, and it's a predominantly white town.
Right. Everything upstate New York is predominantly white. For those that don't know, I mean, from my perspective, it's not as like Harlem. It's not Brooklyn. It's a different world.
Here's the thing, though. That's really the misconception. There's a lot. I mean, just like any state. Like, where are you from?
Texas, from Dallas.
Texas, right? Like outside of Texas, we know about Dallas. We know Houston. Might know about San Antonio because of the basketball, right?
Right.
And the conception outside is okay. That's where the black people are, right? But reality, I'm sure there's some towns in Texas and some towns we never heard of where there's a lot
of fully black. Absolutely.
It's just like that in New York. You know what I mean? The exception is in the city is where all the black people are, and outside is where the white people are. And you go just outside the city. If you're in Yonkers, you could be in a real tough neighborhood. You know what I mean? Full of black people. If you're in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, the further you go up, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Albany, like pockets where there's just a lot of black people that's really struggling. You know what I mean? So I grew up in a housing project, because I make jokes about it. I'm like, I grew up, they call my building the Bricks because it's in upstate New York, so it's still suburban, it's still greenery, right?
Right.
But it's like, it looks like a New York City project building in the middle of the suburb. So like that's where all the bricks are, like right in that little bit over there, you know what I mean? But But what was I saying though?
About you speaking life into people. Frame that. Yeah.
Situation with my high school. So I was going to school in this predominantly white neighborhood. I had trouble getting along, with a lot of the people. There was some white kids there that was just like notoriously racist. You know what I mean? Like, and this, we've made a lot of social progress. I can't say systemic progress. Over the past, maybe 15 years, but there has definitely been a lot of conversations. I think social media played a major part in that. But we're talking 2004 or 5 when I got out of school. So this is before we even seen a black president. You know what I mean? And which isn't that long ago, but it still has social progress since then. And at that time, it was just like there was kids that was just like no shame in their game, just straight racist.
Just straight up racist, just straight up nasty, rude. Yeah, absolutely.
And so long story short, I had like a little keychain pocket knife that my girlfriend had brought me back from Greece or something like that. I shouldn't have, don't get me wrong, in school, right? But absolutely. Speaking objectively, the knife was literally harmless. Like it couldn't, it was so small and it was so dull and it was so fragile. It couldn't actually cut a sandwich. It couldn't cut bread if it wanted, you know. But I had it on me and I shouldn't have had it on me, right? And I get into it with some kid who was notoriously racist. He was a little bit older than me. I just and sophomore in high school, and he picked a little fight with me, and I actually gave the knife to somebody else because I'm like, I already know how this is gonna go. I was already fighting. I'll fight him. He gonna tell. They're gonna search me and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So I tried to fight him, and to my surprise, he actually backed down. That saying when you stand up to the bully, they become afraid. They become that happened, and then he ran and told that I had this knife on me, which didn't have anything to do with our altercation.
Right.
It searched me and my friends. So they found it on one of my friends, and it's the school to prison pipeline. Like they hit us as hard as they possibly could. They pressed charges.
Y'all are kids.
It's the thing. I had just turned 16, right? This was 2 weeks after my birthday in April. So in the state of New York, I don't know if they changed this. I feel like they just recently changed this, but in the state of New York, up until recently, if not, it's still the case. If you're 16, they can charge you for adult.
Really?
So because I had just 16, they charged me as an adult with a weapon on
Wow.
campus. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
So they hit me the hardest they could possibly hit me. So I had the
Wow.
job, like 50 hours community service, a year of probation, and then the school kicked me out. Phil, you there?
I'm still here. Keep talking, Rahmeel. Keep talking. Keep talking.
But the school, well, they didn't technically kick me out. They put me on a long-term suspension, right? And then they were in the process of expelling me. Mom and we had some great people around us that was basically informing my mom about the school to prison pipeline. I don't think that phrase was coined at the time, but we had some people around us that was in the education system that was informing my mom, like, look, what your son is going through is a systemic thing, you know.
Absolutely, especially in the Black community. Yeah,
you know, and what's happening, like in situations like this, if Rahmeel was not be penalized the way he's being penalized.
Right, absolutely.
And there's statistics showing that this school in particularly has a history of overly punishing their black
kids, right?
You know? And so when mom found that out, it put the battery in her back, and she just got in dragon mode, got the NAACP involved, and it was a huge thing. And they ended up letting me back into the school about a year later, a year and a half later. You know, like homeschool for like a year and a half, and then they let me back in. And so anyway, I'm jumping around, but so in a nutshell, I know what it's like to be in that place. You know, I constantly live with a healthy survivor's guilt. You know, especially Black boys and young Black kids in general, especially ones that are caught in those psychological circumstances. Because for me, it was a psychological thing. I didn't really have the self-confidence. You know, I wanted to play basketball in my life. That didn't work out. And after that, I didn't really see any possibilities for myself.
Well, you know, those things traumatize people, and it sticks with them for a very long time. Like you say, it's a psychological. It is a trauma. It is trauma that you just really have to just try to get rid of at your own pace. If you don't go through therapy and things like that, you have so many people in our community who are traumatized by situations like that. They make as a kid, and it follows them to their 40s and their 50s, and they don't know how to get rid of it. So that's good that you work with those kids. Let's talk about that. How about you working with the kids?
Yeah. So I started working with Sean Neblett. Shout out to Sean Neblett. Man,
say that part again. What is it again?
Well, I started working with a brother named Sean Neblett.
Okay.
Yeah, he owned a theater company named Changing Perceptions Theater Company. He actually owns the art space out here in Bed-Stuy. It's called the Bed-Stuy Art House, I believe.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, art house. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But he's the one who introduced me to teaching. So he had brought me out to the Eagle Academy, which I don't live too far from. Eagle Academy, Bed-Stuy, and that's when I first started working with kids, just teaching acting, and it went on from there. And then I ended up becoming a theater instructor at the Junior Scholars Program, which is at the Schomburg Center in Harlem. I think that's that's like right up this on 135th.
Yeah, not too far. Yeah, I'm right on 135th. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Right there.
And that was a special job. That was actually Chadwick Boseman's former job.
Really?
Yeah, he was the theater at the Junior Scholars Program. I worked with a lot of his old co-workers, and a lot of his students were about my age, and so some of them had become, workers there, and I worked with some of his former students. But that was a real special place to work at, a real special time. It brought me access to a lot of different kids from a lot of different backgrounds. And so fast forward, I mean, I was working with kids on one level, just teaching through different programs as a teaching artist. And one year I just said, I want to take it upon myself to make a film, just to kind of gain some more control over my own personal career. But I was really inspired by Nipsey Hussle, and Nipsey Hussle at this time, just a few years ago. And I loved the fact that Nipsey Hussle would like always include community development in his own personal business endeavors, and he like simultaneously make the two grow at the same time.
Yeah, because that's what we should do, especially as Black people. We should pull up as we grow, and as you're on TV, you're doing your thing. You are still uplifting the community, whether it's through your training. So that's good. That's a good point. That we all should do that. So those that are listening, always continue to bring your community up while you're going up.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to apply that to like the filmmaking process, because before I had spoken at different school. I was like a commencement speaker at a high school. you know, I was performing my solo show, Ramel's Inferno, which where I really went in depth about my high school experience and school to prison pipeline. I was performing that all over the city, working with kids, not just in the city, but New Jersey. And I found myself using my voice a lot, but like, I don't know, I kind of grew up around people that always raised me to be about that action. You know what I mean? Got to
Yeah.
the point where I'm like, you know, the talking, you know, I'm using my voice and I'm everywhere. It's great. I'm at all these different schools, all these different programs. I'm in juvenile centers working with them kids, like, you know, but I don't feel like actively doing anything. You know what I mean? And
Right.
when it got to the film, time for me to make the film, I said, okay, this is my opportunity to kind of capitalize on that community development thing as well as focus on my career. Because always before it was always like finding the balance between the two. You know, either I was going to audition and do whatever, or I would be working with the kids, and sometimes they would conflict. And you know, so I'm got to find a way. So I got a group of kids that I work with. I talked to Dr. Yolanda Seeley Ruiz over at Teachers College, and she basically provided me with a classroom space to work with the kids. And I said, I'm gonna give these kids that I work with, a free acting class because I know these classes are super expensive. I'm gonna give them a free acting class, and I know a lot of these acting classes in the city, you know, everybody wants to take an acting class that has like a showcase attached to it so they can get in front of an agent or a manager. I said, I'm cut out the middle, man. We're not going to focus on that. Actually, just make the film. So I'm going to give them the class. And then from that class, I'm going to make a film for these kids in this particular class. So we did.
You know what I like about that, especially as an actor who has a really great mentor? It gives you like hope. Like I was actually in a film. Like I could cut out. I don't have to like fight for the you know what I mean? It takes out all of that. Because we've been there. You know, I live in LA. We've been through that whole trying to get on stage, you know, but that was good. I like that. You gave them hope. So they can see themselves on film and they see, oh, I do have some chops. It may not be the best, but they good, you know. So that's good. I like that.
Right. And to have that under your belt, I'm like, if all else fails and the film doesn't do anything, at the end of the day, you can now, you know, all you got to do is worry about going and get your headshots, and now you got this thing. You got a feature film on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
it makes a huge difference, and they can actually see it. You're not lying like a lot of actors do.
Right.
Remember, let's talk about the difficulties of acting. So I know every actor has their own thing. We all go through our own thing. We try to figure it out.
Yeah.
What were your difficulties like? How did you get over them? How did you like press forward, say, you know, I'm gonna keep doing this and make it happen?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think my difficulties just as anybody else's. But what's interesting about me though, one thing I am like, I look back and I pat myself on the back, is I'm like, I booked the Equalizer last year. That was my first.
And the Equalizer, we can see the Equalizer where? You can't just throw that in like that, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm gonna Equalize it.
Equalize anyway. I think I watched the episodes on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
But I feel like it's on Hulu also. I don't want to like quote the networks. You can see the Equalizer anyway. That's super accessible. But I was on the third episode of season 2. So yeah, y'all check that out. Season 2, episode 3, and you'll see my TV debut. Actually, my TV debut was with Spike Lee, but it got cut out. That was years ago. You know, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, I booked that last year, you know, and I was 32 at the time, right? I decided to act, you know, when I graduated with Morehouse when I was 22. So 10 years.
10 years.
Without getting on TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, this is 3 or 4 different agents, 2 managers. Like, you know, I've had 5 or 6 different reps. This is hundreds of possibly even thousands of auditions.
Yeah.
Like 10 years. You know what I mean?
It's not easy, man. I tell people the same thing. When you see older Black people on TV, they probably started when they were kids.
Right.
It's so weird. You know, white people, they usually get on they faster than us. I mean, they probably get some stuff and they hit.
Yeah.
But even they go through the same thing. But Black people, I'm telling you, like Taraji's and the Kevin Hart's, you don't really blow up till later in life. And so I'm the same way, man. I started acting right out of Clark.
Yeah.
I didn't get on TV like I got something at 26, but then I didn't do another movie till like last year where I'm feet, you know. So it's like it takes time, it takes dedication.
It takes
and
time.
We gotta work too. We gotta eat. So we got to figure out how to make that. Unless you come from a rich family, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Yeah.
That's always the struggle. I think for me, my biggest struggles were always internal. Like for I went through a period because I got very lucky when I first started. First did acting when, like I said, when I was doing little short film, little student films at Morehouse when I was 21, 22.
Right.
I graduate. I'm taking classes, trying to figure it out, and I get my first agent in Atlanta at 23. You know, which is unheard of.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know, at the time I didn't know, but I lucked up and got my first agent. I was auditioning, and then what was I going with that? I had a point. Man, I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, I mean, like I look back, like I was going through my phone the other day because I save all of my auditions, and every now and then kind of review my auditions to see what where was my mind at that particular time. And like I saw this old audition from like 2013, and it scared me because I'm like, I look like a baby. To me, I'm like, oh, I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing 10 years. I mean, and that's like it's the psychological thing. Like I also know the state that I was at. You know, 10 years ago, for me, I thought I had to be in control because when I was in college, I had control. I looked at my syllabus. I knew exactly what I had to do to get the A. All I had to do everything on the syllabus, right? Once I figured it out, I'm like, cool, I can control it. Once you get into the real world, especially with acting, it ain't like that. You don't have control. Like you really can't control it. You just got to keep showing up. You know what I mean? And I think initially I would turn take you know. And audition, I took it first as okay, maybe I'm not that good of an actor, you know. So then I went back and studied everything. I've got all them Stanislavski books that I heard about from an actor prepares to build the character, and read all them books and read the Uta Hagen and the and then in the Sanford Meisner and Lee Strasberg. I read all the theorists that I heard about, read as much as about acting as I could, did all the experimenting, did the Shakespeare program in the UK, the British American Drama Academy. I did everything excuse me, I could to make sure that I was as great of an actor as I could possibly be. And then I discovered that I still wasn't booking. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's not talent. So what is it? Maybe it's me. And ultimately what it did, the journey was so healing for me because it was like the universe was constantly making me deal with rejection. And I didn't grow up with my biological father. Me and him, we developed a relationship later on, but early on we had that, that typical sad but true early 90s black father, black son relationship where he would say he was going to come get me and then never show up. So, I carried those issues of abandonment and rejection all throughout my childhood, which is probably why I dealt with so much trouble in my teen years. And unbeknownst to me, I carried them into my 20s as well. And it was why those rejections were hurt so much. So I had to heal from those things. I had to go and re-examine everything that was going on with me internally about just rejection in general. You know what I mean? And I also learned that I just had to live. Like for a long time, my sister, with I have two sisters from my father. We met kind of later in life when I was in my later teens. But my sister had two kids, and I was always ashamed to come around. I always said I'm gonna come around, when my acting career takes off, so that way I can come around and start giving them, and they can see me on TV, and I could be, Uncle Mel. And years went by, and they were getting older. You know what I mean? Like age 7 and 8 and age 4 and 5, and I finally did decide to start coming around, and they didn't know who I was, and that hurt me because I'm like, I put everything aside for this acting career because I thought that's where my value was. I thought my value was Rahmeel, the successful actor. I didn't see the value just in the mirror. You know what I mean? So I started to come around and be around my nieces and nephews more, just my family more, just to live life. You know what I mean? And
because the value is you. At the end of the day, it's you.
Right. Yeah. Uncle Mel doesn't have to be this, a huge actor. He just got to be. You know what I mean? And funny enough, once I started to come around more and be around my family and just kind of started to live the life the way that I wanted to live it, then the equalizer came. You know, then things started to work out for my acting career.
So what is that? You just started to be yourself and be in the moment and love yourself. Is that what really changed?
Yeah, I think
the universe, the flow, from God's like, let me just relax and just be where I am and just
yeah. I think I started to evaluate my values, and I started to ask myself, what's really important in this life, and there's nothing more valuable than hearing one of my nieces and nephews laugh. There's nothing more valuable than hugging my mother. There's nothing more valuable than deep conversations with my father. You know what I mean? There's nothing more valuable than just having peace when I'm in solitude. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it took for me to understand those things. Or it's almost like, the universe works in such like mysterious ways, but it's really not that mysterious. It's almost like, we reflect the universe, so as human beings, we're drawn to the light. You know what I mean? We're drawn to the things that have all the shine and have all the freedom, have all the love. Person that walks into the room that's the most attractive is the one with the smile on their face. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to be that attractive person for the universe.
You have to. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, you can't say, oh, I'm not going to be that person until the universe gives me all these material things.
Right, absolutely.
Then you're just walking around, like you're just walking around in darkness. You know what I mean?
Right.
I had to find the value, and at the end of the day, that light that I'm talking about is outside of the material world. It exists, like I said, and hearing my nieces and nephews laugh, it exists hugging my mom, like, and those things that are super tangible, that aren't expensive, that are natural, that are right here, that live in me. That's what a light is. And the more I started to embrace that, the more that light shined. And I think that's when the universe said, okay, that's what a light is. That's why I'm
I love that. That's a good point to stop on. The light. You are the light, brother. I mean, I've been around you a while. I've been knowing you for a minute. You exude that, and you always encourage people. And you're a boxer, so you like to hit people in the face and training. Are you still training at all?
You fully active with boxing?
Well, other people. Are you still training other people?
Not really.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I had this contract.
You're a great trainer, though. You're good. You're a really good trainer.
I appreciate that, man. I had to cool out because I had actually I had a real bad concussion.
Oh wow.
Yeah, from sparring, because I wanted to get in there and compete. And I got touched up pretty bad. I didn't think it was bad until a week later, and then I had concussion symptoms that kept coming. And when I was training my clients, have my clients throw punches at me, and it would just hit me in the body. It was affecting.
Yeah.
It was affecting those symptoms.
Wow.
I had to get pulled out from the training and just go off for a second. But I still love it though. Boxing. First love.
I do too, man. I actually used to box in LA a lot, and so that's why I started boxing with you. But I'm gonna join one in Harlem. But anyway, enough about me. So tell us what you got going on now. What's coming up? Next for you?
Yeah, well, the film, it's true. I'm definitely auditioning. I got an audition. I was gonna try to knock it out tonight, but I think I'm gonna have to hold off until tomorrow. But definitely auditioning. When auditions come through, I'm super excited now, and I feel like I already booked it. You know what I mean? But
that's the thought process you gotta have.
Yeah, it's the thought process. You know what I mean? But so I can't speak on those things, but I will say that the film, The Black Experiment, the film that I did with the kids, look out for that. Like I said, I'm exploring different avenues for it, distribution avenues. I know I want to do some experiment with NFTs. I mean, I know I'm going to explore some experimental ways to distribute that, because the whole process is experimental, from getting the kids to teaching them to where we shot the film, which is why the film, the storyline is experimental. You know what I mean? That's why the film is The Black Experiment. So yeah, just keep that name in your mind.
Black
and experiment. Be on the lookout for it, and definitely when it crosses you.
Well, brother, thank you so much. Tell people how to get in contact with you. Where can they look at you online and Instagram and all that good stuff?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely the most convenient. It's just Rahmeel Peebles, at Rahmeel Peebles. at RahmellPeebles. Yeah, and there you see, for anybody that want to cast me in something, my manager's information is on there, and everything.
Perfect.
I think Instagram is just the best way.
Well, thank you so much, brother. Hold tight for me in the green room, all right?
Okay, for sure. Thank you, man.
Thank you. We want to thank brother Rahmeel Peebles for coming live on air. Remember, his project is The Black Experiment. Remember what he said, the light. And what I took from that is be the light that you want to see. So always keep that good energy and that positivity in you. You're listening to Phil and Friends right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.